I want you to get together.
Speaking of thunder, Odin, the Wanderer, looks much like the Hat Man. Your thoughts, Paul, says Wyo Dino. Yeah, the Hat Man is an interesting one, and I don't know exactly why Odin specifically links to that, but Odin was like a thunder-like god, wasn't he? He was the god of the gods, I believe, the father of gods. He's like Kronos of Greek mythology, the similar type of entity. You see, the Hatman entity, that shaped hat, a tall hat, like kind of like a top hat, let's say, or with a wider brim, it's something a lot of shamans wear. Even here, right now on screen, you just saw there was one wearing one, but like North American, even like Canadian, like cultures, like the Guahanas, for example, they have the totem poles. You know what I mean? Their shaman wears a big tall top hat, and they often depict little men with tall top hats all over the place. You know what I mean? All over the land, even on the carved wood carvings on the houses and on these totem poles. But then if you go across to Korea, you see on screen right now by coincidence is this is a mudang. This is the shaman of Korea, and they become channels for spirits. That's what they do. They channel spirits, and the people who pay them to do it get to communicate with the spirit. So it's the same practice, and they wear a very similar tall, wide brimmed hat. So could it be there's something to do with these hats? I theorize perhaps they are some kind of funneling type device that kind of channels etheric energy into directly into the mind of the wearer in order to create stronger connections to the spirit realm in some mystical way. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing, but why shamans seem to always wear a hat of some kind is very indicative. And obviously the stereotypical evil witch that wears the pointed hat, or wizards wear the pointed hat as well. It's kind of anything involving magic in quotes, or the channeling of demons for personal gain, which is all magic truly is. Um, it seems like a hat is a handy tool for doing just that. I mean, look at these representations here, for example, of ancestor spirits, from Bulgaria, of the Dionysian Thracian cults of Bulgaria. This is their cookery tradition, where they dress like the wild man, who is a Nephilim creature, as I've explained in many videos. They go with a pointed hat as well. But not all cultures do, but you find wherever shamanism is present, top hat style things, wide brimmed hats are very common. It's very bizarre. Um, Question: how do you account for the 1,000 years of recorded history from all over the world if you believe that the millennial kingdom theory? Well, it's not that I don't. If our history is a lie, and a lot of it could have just been made up, it literally can be. I think people put a lot of faith and trust into the historical record that we have been given. And if you control the flow of information, which a lot of people did in the beginning of, let's say the short season, you can just make stuff up, and you can also fill in gaps with just lies, and you can also make a historical figure who maybe existed during the millennial kingdom or just before. You could break him up into many historical figures, and change the name multiple times. You can copy paste that historical figure's acts and make it out that it was many different people throughout different parts of history and time. And that's what the new chronology of Anatoly Fomenko was going for. He was just saying, a lot of these ancient people we see are actually the same person, just by a different name, who's been placed in different points on the timeline. And I think this is the thing. I saw it's not necessarily that like the millennial reign happened for 1,000 years and then we're missing 1,000 years of history or something that we call the Dark Ages. I think it's something weirder than that. I think it's more like 1,000 years has been removed or something like that in a way, or tagged on that never existed. You know what I mean? And like I said, a lot of it's squared by these stories. The dates have just been made up, and the historical characters have literally just been invented in many ways. I think a lot of it comes down to this. And again, we can't just trust the timeline just because we were told it's that way. And again, a lot of this documented history throughout the Dark Ages could have just been made up. It really could have been, or it could be twists of things that actually happened during the millennial reign and make it out into a negative light. But again, I don't know. I don't necessarily know this. I saw one person tell me he found this old Bible which said in the Bible that it was the year 182 when it was published, but someone had handwritten in the Bible 1870 something, you know what I mean? Like 18 something. And it says if that's the case, then that means that like 1,600 years has been added to the timeline from where we truly are. It's kind of like we're way off in terms of the actual time. Um, and what year we actually live in is completely unknown. And we're just told it's been 2,000 years since Christ, but it's possible actually it's only been about 1,100 years since Christ ruled and was raised from the dead. You know what I mean? Because if he was raised from the dead and then immediately ruled for 1,000 years, and it's been roughly about 200 to 300 years since that reset, then that means we're living in the year 1,300 and something. We're not living in the year 2023. And it's confusing for sure. I know, don't get me wrong. I don't have the answers for this one, but we can't just rule it out. Everything is up for interpretation now, considering how much we know we've been lied to. And if on the Millennial Kingdom thing, a lot of people really misunderstood what I was trying to say in that video, and I have a lot of angry, fervent, dogmatic churchianity type Christians who are saying the comment's always the same, okay? It always starts with, the millennial kingdom can't have happened yet. They all start with the same sentence. It's eerie, actually. It's getting quite creepy how many comments begin with that kind of sentence. Like, it couldn't have possibly have happened yet because... And the answer actually isn't very good as to why. It's literally like we would have known, we would have seen it, we would be in time of peace. Like if Jesus Christ was ruling, we would know it. You know what I mean? We would be in our light bodies and all this type of stuff. And all of these responses completely ignore the passage in Revelations where it says, after the millennial reign is over, Satan is loosed for a little season. It's like they didn't listen to anything I said. And they're forgetting that you wouldn't know Christ had reigned for 1,000 years during the little season. That's the point. It would get covered up. But it's like the people cannot fathom the idea that they may be living in a time where they're being lied to about who they are and where they are, that Satan is ruling. You know what I mean? And it's like they just, some kind of cognitive short circuit happens in their brain. It's like if Christ had reigned for 1,000 years, then we'd all be perfect and peace would be wonderful and we'd all be in our beautiful light bodies. It's like, yes, sure, if you were alive during the time of the millennial reign, but you're not. You're possibly alive right now in the period just after it, where Satan gets to rule and everything isn't hunky dory and peace and wonderful and Christ is in control. It's, well, Christ is always in control, but this is not his time to rule over us. This is Satan's time again. And again, could it be for the sole purpose of, a lot of people existed before Christ arrived. A lot of people didn't have a chance at salvation. They never got a chance. And God being a just, fair God, would he not give those people the chance? And we live in a time where there isn't a corner of this earth that hasn't heard the name Jesus Christ. Everybody knows about Jesus. And if not, they're about to. If there's maybe the odd tribe out there who hasn't quite heard about his name, you know what I mean? Then they will eventually. It's not going to last long, is it? And this is the thing, like, the dead will rise again type of thing. All this resurrection stuff keeps being said at the end of time. Would this be the time where the dead that didn't know Christ get to live during a time where Christ exists and people know about him and the good news is there. That would be fair, right? You get what I'm saying? And so it's again, what upsets me is that people listened to the theory and didn't hear me say, like, okay, so if the millennial reign has come and gone and this is Satan's little season, we wouldn't know about Christ's reign. It would be lied and covered up. We would be in an ultimate form of deception. That's the point. You see what I mean? It's kind of, and now it's funny that this knowledge that it could. Okay, so again, if big if this is the little season, it's coming to an end. There isn't that long left. I don't know how long exactly, but there wouldn't be that long left if it's been like 300 or something years. If 1,000 years of Christ is a long season and a little season's got to be a bit less than half, right? Or something like that. I don't know. So that we have to remember that time is very short now. Would it not make sense that at the end of the little season, the truth would start coming out? And everyone would start clocking onto it pretty quick. You know what I mean? And sure, I know, and people didn't understand this. Like, yes, I know, Preterism has been around for a long time. There are probably 70-year-olds listening to this who are like, when I was a kid, people were saying this. Yes, yes, you're right. But were there as many people believing it then? Probably not. And it was a fringe, crazy topic then, right? You know what I mean? And it's like an outsider topic that no one really talked about or discussed. Just those weird people in the corner of the church said that. But now, I believe this theory is gaining massive traction right now. Okay, and I think a lot of people are kind of clocking on to the idea that I think we've been lied to. You know? And don't get me wrong, another huge thing I got thrown at me with that video is a lot of people are adamant that right now Revelations is unfolding and Christ is about to return to start his 1,000-year reign. And they're really, really outraged and upset that I would even dare consider that that might not be the case. I'm a heretic, blasphemy. Christ is about to come and rule, and you're leading people astray. And it's kind of like, no, I'm not. I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading Revelations where it says clearly Christ reigns for 1,000 years, and then there's a short season. What if maybe that's where we are currently, and all of this end times events people are seeing are just orchestrated events by people who know the script and are basically running the script to convince the world that Jesus is about to return. Okay? When he's not. This is the thing, it's going to be a deception. It's going to be a great little season deception. And a fake Jesus is about to turn up of some kind, something like that. What if that's what's happening? And what if, people who rule the world have every infinite resource at their fingertips, infinite money, and can make literally anything happen they want? Why wouldn't they make it look like Revelations is unfolding? They can do that. They can breed red heifers. You know what I mean? They can do these type of things. It's not hard. Like when you have like infinite resources and money and power. They can do anything in that respect. Obviously, they can't. They're not God, but they can put on a good show. And I'm pretty convinced, looking at the history, their track record, they have a habit of faking things and making us believe something else because of that fake narrative they created, where they made a fake show with a camera. Take your pick. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that, but take your pick for what false event they've created that have caused greater things to happen from that lie. Why couldn't they pull this off? A true great delusion, And if the devil's time is short, he would not have wasted any time destroying the old world and any evidence of the millennial reign at the initial start. And as we've gained more ability to share information more freely, the lies are harder to cover up. The evidences aren't so easy to keep away from our eyes anymore. This is all I'm saying. It's like we're not allowed to speculate. There's a lot of Christians out there who refuse to speculate. like it's a sin to even just for a second consider where we may be in history, you know. And I think a lot of churches are organized and are built upon this idea that they are going to get to be the ones that reign with Christ for 1,000 years. He's just around the corner. He's always about to just turn up and save us all from the hell on earth right now, you know, and we're going to reign for 1,000 years with him. And I feel like if that's what your faith is based on, that you get to reign with Christ for 1,000 years, it's pretty selfish. I don't think it's actually a strong foundation for faith. And I know a lot of people don't like that idea, but only recently have I started to think about these type of concepts, and my faith in Christ was never based on this promise that I get to be raptured, or this promise that I get to reign with him for 1,000 years, or this promise that I don't have to deal with all the pain and suffering in the world. You know, I was never based on that. And when I started saying these things and getting this backlash, I was kind of learning like, oh, that's not what other Christians, that's not how they see it. They're all waiting for Jesus's imminent return so they get to live in peace for 1,000 years with him. But if you're a post millennial preterist, Jesus is still about to return, but it's the end, it's the final judgment. No 1,000 years of peace on earth. It's going to be final judgment and then a full renewal of everything. It's going to be different. It's going to be way different from the millennial reign. The millennial reign was like a taster for what's to come. You know what I mean? So truly, you know, if you have faith in Christ and you're not, and you really are passionate about that, then when you think about it, you should be happy that it's actually the little season, because what comes after this is the big one. You know, the true thing that we should all be looking for. You know, the true thing, the final judgment, and then the brand new heaven and earth type of situation. So it's kind of, I don't know what you have to think about it, you know, and you know whether it's the I don't know where I am in history in that respect. And again, I was never banking on that I get to just chill out for 1,000 years in peace and safety and security with Christ. You know, I don't think that was the point of his message. And then, but again, a lot of churches are revolving around this, and no, I think there's a lot of money as well that goes around in a lot of in these Christians and preachers online and in churches that go on this narrative that Christ is about to return and rule for 1,000 years in the millennial reign, and Revelation is about to unfold, and the mark of the beast is about to happen, and all this type of stuff, you know. And I think the fear that gets hyped up around the coming revelation, you know, pouring of the vials all over the earth of the destruction and death and fire, you know, and famine and all these type of things, and you know the four horses and just all that tribulation is what a lot of churches base their entire thing on, you know, the coming destruction and tribulation, and that keeps people locked into their church and their worldview and the promise of his coming to save you from all this pain and suffering, you know, that's about to come on the earth. And again, I feel like it's a bit of a racket. It feels icky to me, you know, and when I first became a Christian, yeah, I was listening to all these doomsday preachers. And I too was looking for the signs of the times of the end coming and the, you know, all this. I too was there, you know, but now I've got this new perspective. It shifts everything. It changes everything. It really does. It's a whole new perspective on the situation, and it's a whole different prioritizing of where we stand, you know. And I don't think we can just throw it out. I really don't. And that's kind of where I stand on it. I went off on one there, but you know you all know what I mean. Like if you made it this far and you're listening to this stream, you probably know what I'm saying here. You probably get it.
I want you to get together